Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. And the comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to the Null Time Zone in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the Uncanny Chris.
And I like to make mine Marvel Brent.
Alliance.
Up in Hotel California.
Everyone's joining in. Okay.
I was not prepared for this. This is not my show. You're ruining the fluidity.
Bring that same heat.
Travis. Jesus. All right, Tony, you go.
The karaoke master, Anthony.
You guys are ridiculous.
Yes, exactly. Alliance
Symbol.
Well, that, as you see, we totally we'll thank Heinz for chiming in on that one. We'll blame him for that, but welcome everyone to
you guys. You give me shit when I don't chime in the what if reviews.
It's because it's just you. Well, we are coming at you tonight. It is our second episode, one we have been waiting for, including one of us who has been waiting a few weeks to talk about this movie. It is good problem to have. Episode 66, our Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings review. We are very excited to talk about it. And as you hear, and some of you are seeing now, we have a panel of GUA hosts on here, but we got a lot to talk about, so let me get the network plugs out of the way first. We are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 8 shows coming at you 6 days a week. Sometimes 7. You never know. Travis likes dropping superhero discussions a lot lately.
Double dip.
We've got World's Finest True Believers and Ranger Alliance alternating bi-weekly on Mondays. DC Alliance on Tuesdays, superhero discussions on Wednesdays, Star Wars Alliance and walk through the multiverse bi-weekly on Thursdays, Marvel Alliance on Fridays, and Slice of Film Sundays bi-weekly. DC Alliance goes live on the Geekverse feed on Monday nights, and typically Marvel Alliance goes live on the Geekverse feed on Thursday nights. And DC Alliance and Marvel Alliance both have their separate pod feeds, so make sure you check those out. And if you can want to join, if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we have a Patreon. So if you want to throw us $1, it's our tip jar saying, hey, thank you. We really appreciate it. And then we got a $5 tier that gives you early access episodes, ad-free episodes, and our Patreon exclusive episodes. So we want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. We really appreciate it. And if you can't join us on Patreon, totally understand. But if you can drop us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, whichever podcatcher choice may be, on our solo feed and the GOA feed, we would greatly appreciate it. And we're going to plug, as always, our official sponsor, organicpricebooks.com. JP and the boys and the girls at the OPB have got it going on with all your omnibus and collected edition needs. Just scrolling through all these lovely Marvel pre-orders that are there. So we got some Doctor Strange, we got some Conan, we got some Power Pack. I know we got a few Power Pack fans in this stream tonight. There we go. X-Men, as always. So again, check out organicpricebooks.com, and if you use that code MarvelGUA at checkout, we got $2 off every single order. So we want to thank OPB for being our official sponsor. All right, so let us, even though they kind of haphazardly introduce themselves, we'll give them a proper introduction at this point. So let us introduce our panel tonight for our big review. We'll start with the man who started our, I think Clay did it as the train wreck, as the GIF at that point. We'll start the conductor of the it, Mr. Travis Hines, co-host of DC Alliance and host of Superhero Discussions. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good, Chris. Got to see this movie twice and can't wait to talk about it. I can't imagine Brent having to hold it in for 2 weeks, because I had like 3-hour period there and I was ready to explode waiting for the rest of you guys to watch it. So I can't wait to get into it and just happy to be here. Another Marvel movie. Give me all the Marvel content, please.
Yes, exactly. I can always second that. Next, we have Tony, co-host of Ranger Alliance. How you doing tonight, Tony?
Pretty good. Cannot wait to talk about this movie. Unfortunately, nobody that I work with saw it, so it's a struggle all day without talking about. Really excited. I saw the movie. I'm gonna see it at least 2 more times. I wish it was on Premiere Access so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. And last, but definitely not least at all, Fanboy Clay, co-host of DC Alliance, Ranger Alliance. He's got his own Patreon stuff going on for the network. What doesn't he do? And Star Wars Alliance too. My goodness, he's taking over the GUA.
Well, that wasn't officially announced, but I guess it is now out of the bag. Yeah, so I really wanted this to be on Premier Access because I made the joke last night at the fact, or early this morning at the fact that I like drinking a soda at the theater for the first time in I don't know how many months. Midway through the movie, oh boy, it got rough. It got real rough. And I was just like, man, and I knew that there was, in credit scenes. So I was like, this is not good. This is not good. Let's keep it going. Come on. And I was the only person in the theater. The experience getting into the theater, I kind of shed some light on that, was not great either. So the experience going in was not great. But yeah, I also have a pretty big bomb that I want to drop here. I saw Britt is already, preparing for it over on Twitter. So, I was only able to see this once because of some experiences that I had at the theater. I actually got a free pass to go see it again. I think we're going to go do it on Monday. Hopefully it's a better experience. But overall, I'm prepared to review this movie.
Awesome. Well, let us get into non-spoiler thoughts at that point. So let us start with you, Clay. What are your high level thoughts for this movie?
Oh, I wasn't prepared to drop this bomb so early in the review. This is the greatest Marvel movie that I have seen since Iron Man, since Endgame, since Infinity War. This is my favorite Marvel movie.
Well, there's not that many since then.
Well, he said since Iron Man, and then he said since Endgame. So I'm like, so it's in 25 movies or in like 3 movies?
No, like in all of the MCU since fruition.
So this is number 1 in your letterbox, huh?
This is number 1 in my letterbox.
Impressive.
Wow.
Interesting. All right.
Did you see that coming?
Yeah, that is. It's definitely high up on my list.
I really wanted to keep you guys on your toes.
I didn't expect you to drop the bomb immediately. I was just thinking high level thoughts, but here we go.
No, because high level thoughts. This movie was great. It deserves all the praise that it's been getting. There was, some talk about how, if we were in a COVID-free world, this movie would have blown up. I definitely believe that. And, I think it still has some legs, especially with it being Labor Day weekend, has that one extra day that majority of people will hopefully be off. Now, if you can safely go see the movie, I highly, highly recommend it. Mm-hmm. But hopefully, and we will talk about it when it comes down to it, but hopefully this is a success for Marvel.
Mm-hmm. Good. Travis. What are your thoughts?
As co-host of DC Alliance with Clay, first off, I'm glad you enjoyed this film. It's good to see.
I have not had the greatest streak with superhero films within the last year. So
when you said hot take, I was expecting you to go scorched earth on this movie. So
it took a Marvel movie for that to happen. So let's just leave it at that.
But Chris, I echo Clay's thoughts about how good it was. Maybe not where it ranks on my list, but as I was saying to Brent beforehand, I enjoy every movie on my list. It's just where they stack up. The action is amazing. There is a little bit of a lull in terms of the action in the second act for me. It's not as great, but you get back to it. It's not quite the style you have in the first act. They kind of change styles, but I enjoy that. And Shang-Chi, Simu Liu, a star. He fits right in. I think he weaves in seamlessly to this MCU, the greater MCU, and I just can't wait to get into specific parts because this I won't say this is number one on my list, but this went significantly high on my list. A lot higher than I thought it was going to going in. So I can't wait to discuss.
Number 2. Yeah.
All right. Well, you spoke up. You were next on list. Nice transition. Tony, what are your high level thoughts?
The trailer definitely caught my interest. I didn't think I was gonna love it as much as I did. Has some negatives, but I think overall has way more positive that beats the negatives out.
Awesome. All right, Brent, you've been waiting. You've been pining to talk about this.
I freaking love this movie. I think they did a phenomenal job. Simu Liu is going to be a whole lot of people's favorite Avenger going forward. I have no doubt in my mind about that. The way that they balanced the origin story with still giving you connections to the larger MCU, I thought was just expertly done. You could have gone into this movie cold with no knowledge of the MCU, but if you had a little MCU knowledge, and not even much, if you just had a little, there's that little extra kick for you there. The action, I mean, calling it incredible feels like an understatement to me. Every action scene just felt different than the one before it, and I go back and forth on what my favorite one was. I think I finally figured out which one is my favorite action scene after seeing it 3 times. But man, it took a lot. The whole cast, so not just Simu Liu, the whole cast, just fantastic. The villain, the Mandarin, Wenwu, oh my gosh, so good. And, I call him the villain, but I don't know if I would call him evil in the same way that other people might. Like you understand why he's doing what he's doing. Maybe you disagree with his ultimate conclusions, but you at least understand it. Phenomenal movie.
Yeah, I've only seen it once. I'm not sure when I'll get a chance to see it again, but outstanding. This is a definitely a hallmark for Marvel. For some people who do not frequent martial arts movies at that point, this is a very tour de force in the sense of taking what a lot of martial arts movies do in that sense. And like everyone has said, the cast up and down, from the ones we know about to the surprises that we saw in the film, did a great job. And bringing in something that I've said since seeing WandaVision throughout to this point continues to prove that Phase 4, one of the themes of Phase 4 is legacy, the importance of legacy, and what is after Endgame, what each one of these Disney Plus shows to the movies, legacy is what is a big part of what is next for the MCU. Who's not just who's the next Avenger, what can you do? And in this movie is nothing about that, plus balance. And that is also a big theme in this movie. I like how a hashtag family, this movie does deal with family.
Yes. and there's a car chase.
And there's a car chase. Just the action sequences alone were just so well choreographed, so well thought out. It was, every person had a part to play, whether minor or big at this point, but so much. This is going to be, even if it does not, it's not going to perform like it would. We already know that, but you already know, despite that, they know this, there will be continuing parts to play that this movie sets up for the future. I'm excited to see where this leads. So, any last non-spoiler thoughts before we take our first ad break, before we finally rip this Band-Aid off and, joy about and give our thoughts?
Just that, for anyone who told you that the MCU was going to be dead after Endgame, they've been disproven so much this year, and this is such a capper. Like this, if this is the last new MCU project of the year, I'm like, the MCU.
They ended on a great note.
It is arguably stronger than it ever was before, with the exception of Infinity War and Endgame.
How many movies was it up until Endgame? 18, 19? Insane fool wouldn't even bet against somebody who had 19, like, really, from fantastic to really good films. Like, I don't understand that sentiment of they're just going to transition into a different story, and they're amazing at storytelling. I can't wait to get into this because they do some things here that a lot of people writing stories for just so many characters, they really should take note, because I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So, all right. So let us take our first ad break before we get into all the juicy spoilers we want to give you all. So, as always, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on and the web fluid filled in our Spidey shooters at that point. So we don't get to choose the ads that come on, but they could be a bit loud. So I'm going to give you that 3 count to turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right. So, spoilers. Let's start with cast. Let's start with our like quote unquote heroes, protagonist, anything like that. So I'm gonna toss it to you, Brent. At this point, you've been waiting so long to say it. Who do you want to start with? Favorite moments, favorite characters.
I mean, how do we not start with our title character? How do we not start with Shang-Chi? And right out of the gate, I want to call out that obviously Simu Liu is the star of the movie, but we had 2 younger, and I don't know the actors' names, but we did have 2 younger versions of the character as well. Mm-hmm. And I thought all of them did a great job with their parts of his timeline. That's the first thing I wanted to call out. We got nonlinear storytelling throughout the whole movie. All the way at the end of the movie, we're still getting flashbacks, but they did a great job interweaving that stuff to give us his history along with what was happening in the present.
Mm-hmm. Tony, what about you? Talking about Simu Liu, Shang-Chi.
One thing I love about this character is like he's so like relatable. I feel like he just like, especially kids like the generation, like we don't know what we're gonna do with our lives, and that's what we see right from the get-go. I think that's something that he does well. Plus, like his lines that he delivers is right on the mind. Like he definitely steals the scenes in many of the scenes.
Mm-hmm. Travis.
Like I wanted to jump on Tony's point of relatability. He's very genuine too. Like I found anytime, like when he needed to have heart, he had heart. When he needed to be serious or angry, everything he put across was great, and you could just tell the work he put in for the action. Because don't want to tear down something to put something up, but Iron Fist, hell of a lot of cutaways, hell of a lot. Here, no, it's not. That train scene is arguably the best. We're talking about favorite moments. It's arguably the best action scene, one of the best action scenes in the MCU. Bus, sorry. It was one of them, especially with you throw San Francisco in there and the jumps and the hills. You can do that so well. And I thought Katie played such a great role. When I saw that in the trailers, I thought it was going to be a ridiculous joke fest for her, but no, not at all. So I thought that was great. And you could tell he was always trying to save people while dealing with all of this, which I don't know. I just thought he was a standout, and seeing him interact in the end credit scene with other people. Actually, we're spoiler free now, so other Avengers. Yeah. I was like, he fits in perfectly. Look at him there. Give me Shang-Chi in the next Avengers, please.
Clay, what do you have to say about our new MCU Avenger?
So for me personally, if you listen to any review that I have done that has non-linear storytelling, the number one thing that I say is that I hate it. This played on it so well. I love the way they told the story, the way that it kind of kept you on your toes, keeping kind of Shang-Chi's background a little bit of a mystery. I will say I was able to kind of make a guess at one of the bigger moments near the end of the story, but that didn't hurt whatsoever. They were using it for dramatic effect. It worked very, very well. It even cut into amazing scenes that were felt throughout the past. So I will say every single time that you saw the younger Shang-Chi in those flashbacks or whatever, you felt all of the emotion 100% of the time. So I have to give all the kudos to those children actors. But Shang-Chi, that whole joke on the plane was great. I absolutely loved it. But, the relatability of a character that is like, one thing that I've been telling everybody about this movie is from beginning to end, from literally the first scene to the last scene, there are immense superhero tropes throughout the entire film.
Mhm.
And this movie plays on them so well to do really good storytelling. So this whole thing with like you having Shang-Chi in this like everyday job, and he's just like, he's just one of us. And then the immediate like change in personality on the bus, I thought that was really well done. You at that point, you're like, holy crap, he does have a past. You don't have to necessarily see him be built up into this like fighting machine. He already is the fighting machine. So I really did enjoy that you were able to jump right into the action without having all of that buildup, because it was coming later and it felt organic when the story was told that way. So I loved all those moments. The inclusion of like this like new suit that he has, his like superhero suit. I love that it's dragon scales. It's not just random suit. There's an in-story like reason for his suit being the way that it is. Just like how Black Panther has his suit, just like how Captain America has his shield, just like Iron Man has his costume. Now Shang-Chi has his superhero suit, and I could go on and on about this. So if anybody wants to cut in or stop me, like just go ahead and do it. So I love this movie. I genuinely did.
Well, we've got plenty to dissect there. So, and you're right. The linear storytelling, especially in an origin movie, it's almost expected, especially where we pick up from, the hints of what he is as a child to immediately go to where he is in present day. This even looking at the name Shang-Chi, it means the rising and advancing of the spirit. He is fighting against the anger he's inherited from his father and the peace from his mother and the balance he has to achieve in order to rectify that. So the struggles he's got to deal with we all can relate to that in different points in our lives. He's lost. He doesn't want to be what his father is. And I like it how comic accurate it was in the sense of why he left his father and what he did, and the revelation that at one point, he says, oh, I didn't assassinate the person, when he did. And that's very accurate in the comics. That's exactly what happens. And he is trying to find a meaning at that point in the fact that, he's happy. He's happy because he's not with his father, but he's not happy. He's not fulfilled. And so when, the guys from his father are on the bus and basically wants his pendant from his mother, at that point, the revelation that he is, the master of Kung Fu and whoops all their butts, including razor fist.
It didn't dawn on me until I saw the name on the car that I was like, oh, that's I'm not sure if it's a joke at Guardians of the Galaxy or if they just wanted to make it similar. That's a real character
in Marvel Comics.
I am not very familiar with Shang-Chi as a character. I honestly have not, I've only read comics that are literally modern, so 2020 and present. So there is a total, I looked it up, there's a total of 9 issues for people who want to go out and read Shang-Chi right now. There's the 5-issue miniseries, there's the one shot, and then now there's another miniseries, which is Shang-Chi versus the Marvel Universe, which I am absolutely in love with. I love that series so much right now. But I didn't know that Razor Fist was an actual character.
Yes,
and I think that's hilarious.
It is. But the way he is able to, and I love the character itself, because what makes it even stronger is his own faults, what he has done with his life, from killing a man for his father to abandoning his sister to, lying to his friend about who he is at that point. I mean, he is not the simple, I'm the perfect hero, but that's what makes a lot of these characters, especially in the Marvel Universe, really, some of them more complex than others, but makes it, as we keep on saying, relatable and understanding at that point to say that they're more than just what their powers are. And I think you said it best, Travis, and said that he is always trying to help people. He is always trying to put himself in front of the bullet to help anyone at that point, even if they're his father, at that point.
Well, they do a good job on the bus scene of just the random other people on the bus. While he's fighting, he's hauling them back, saving them. And that goes on throughout this entire movie every time he has a chance to. So you can tell, like you said, he was struggling with both sides, his mother and his father, and trying to find himself. And I think that just because of what he did, what he carried out, what his father asked him to do, I think that's the reason he thinks that he has evil in him and he can't be just like his mother. Mm-hmm. So how he's torn throughout the entire film is really great because, at the end of the day, that is your father, even though he is doing the things that he's doing. Still kind of jarring to have to go up against him. And that scene where he tells Katie that he's going to finish him, a big bravo to Simu Liu there because he really brought the emotion in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
He's not like the always makes the right choice, good, perfect hero just to be a hero. Like he would have been completely content to have lived his quiet life forever and have never been found by his father. Now he's effectively outed. You can tell he's more comfortable with who he is with, his aunt talks about how you're the product of both your mother and your father. He's clearly more comfortable with those sides of himself at the end of the movie than at the beginning. But one thing I can't get out of my head is he's that good and he left the training like 10 years earlier. Just think if he had stayed with him, how much better he would be. But it's unreal how good he is at it still. And that moment when he first reveals to Katie, like just shows like, she's like, does he look like a fighter? And then the guy hits her. He's like, okay, now it's on. And just insane how amazing that sequence is to watch. The way he bounces around that bus, on top of that bus, and through all the different handrails and stuff. Just an absolute stunning sequence.
And a proving trope through the Marvel universe, whether it be the Netflix shows to the MCU proper, close quarters fighting. They definitely know how to do that quite well.
Absolutely.
So good segue. Who wants to talk about Katie Awkwafina? Who wants to take a shot to talk about what you thought? Yeah, go for it.
I want to say like one other thing in Jumanji 2 or 3. She was okay, but I don't think she'd be as funny as she was in this movie. Like I think she's gonna have a huge like star out of her. I kind of want to see her now hang out with Jimmy Woo and
yes,
Kate, that character, just her on missions.
Darcy, Jimmy, and Kate.
Yes. Like just her reaction, like of course, sure, like how she hit the bow and arrow. I've heard some people who didn't like it. How out of nowhere she became a great archer. I'm okay with that. That's my one little nitpick. But besides that, the way that she stood by his side from moment one, like, you know what, I'm going with you. I was so glad. I'm like, okay, good. Don't leave her behind because I'm enjoying every moment I'm seeing of Awkwafina. Especially at the end when she's telling the story with the two friends.
Mm-hmm.
What was I gonna say? I just totally lost my brain of thought.
It's all good.
Well, I will say I'm really glad that they didn't go with the very stereotypical love interest for this. You can kind of see that is a possibility in the future, but to just leave it where it was, I thought it was very, very nice. I will totally admit, during the first big fight scene after he fights his sister, Shang-Chi, and she falls off the bamboo, totally thought she was going to die.
Oh, wow.
And I immediately thought, okay, so that is going to motivate him even more to, find and kill his father. And I understand this has been a recent conversation in the GUA chat with fridging and everything else. That I would have been okay with it in this instance, literally because it would have come out of nowhere. It literally, like, I was literally on my seat. I was the only person in my theater, so I was able to react a little bit more than I would normally do. So, like, jaw was open. I gasped. I was on the edge of my seat, and like, it does the very tropey thing of like slow motion. She's falling. I was like, oh crap, she's gonna die. And then, of course, his sister, Shang-Chi's sister, saves her, and I was like, oh, thank God. But I really enjoyed Awkwafina's character as Katie. Her whole thing about, and I understand, I've listened to some people talk about criticism of her, just all of a sudden being great at this one thing. And my argument to that is, have you ever tried something new and you just had an affinity for it? Like, and you were just like really good at that one thing? That's the exact same thing that happened here. And they put it out there in dialogue to show that exact thing. Her whole point was like, oh, my mom is always telling me to like go do this and go do that, and I never really try with anything that I am really interested in. And the archers were just like, shoot, do it. Like, you're not going to succeed in anything that you don't do. So when she attempted to actually try something, she was good at it. That was the whole point of her ending arc. And I enjoyed it. Like, it didn't feel forced whatsoever. They, of course, needed it for the film to, for that last climax with, the soul-sucking demon and all of that stuff. But I genuinely felt like it was organic. So it made sense to me.
Clay, to that point, just one thing, Chris, to that point, their show a scene a little bit before that of her training, and she has, I want to say maybe 5 arrows, but they're not bullseye, but they're around. They're a circle around, like they're like the outer, like
target.
They're improving though. They're actually hitting the square. Whereas I've seen people like Oliver Queen, first time he shot, it wasn't anywhere near any sort of target. So like you can see like that coming out of left field, her shooting, that did not come out left field to me because they laid some breadcrumbs that she could possibly do something. I thought she was just going to take out one of those flying like minions, but I didn't expect that. But I loved it. I didn't hate that at all.
Yeah, they had a good balance. I felt with her because it could have came off like from the trailers. I saw a lot of people rolling their eyes of, oh my gosh, she's going to be the jokes throughout the whole thing. Because I've seen her in Crazy Rich Asians, loved her in that movie. I thought it was great. But with her, it's the tropey kind of, she's the outsider looking in, trying to make sense, trying to be the relatable to the audience. But her jokes and her, basically, if without lack of a better, the Jiminy Cricket nature of who she is to Shang-Chi, and that she knows him more on a personal level, being that of how long she's known him and they have grown up together. They both have similar parents, and one would call Wenwu and her mom tiger parents at that point, in the sense of wanting them to only be the most successful person ever and do not accept anything less than that. And the questioning of, what are you going to do with your life? Just being a valet for the rest of your life? It's like, yeah, sure, why not? Just to basically screw. There was a quick Easter egg, and I got it confirmed that in her mom's apartment, there's a flyer advertising help for blip anxiety.
Huh.
So there wasn't much mention about the blip at all in this movie.
Katie mentions one thing that says about
the snap.
Yeah,
yeah, like anything can happen in a minute, so you got to live your life. Kind of.
Yeah.
Well, at the very beginning of the movie, they talk about how like this isn't a life that they talk about how like half the population just disappeared. Like talking about like what you need to be doing with your life. Same thing that you guys are saying.
Yeah.
But I think that was really the only reference, other than the fact of like Trevor. I'm sure we will get to him.
Yep. Well,
like,
we will.
There are sprinkles of MCU, but just like the Black Panther movie, it was very well rounded around just the Shang-Chi character. It wasn't like exploding with like MCU Easter eggs.
Yeah, I did like Aquafina's relationship with the sister, and I know we'll talk about the sister shortly. At that point, I thought that was even very quick, but I thought it worked really well.
I thought Aquafina did a great job. I loved Katie's story because, like Clay was talking about, she doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. Like, she just is acting like all she wants to do is have fun. But every time she saw somebody who knew what they wanted, who had the drive and the desire to knew a plan of what they wanted to do, she really responded well to that. It happens with Xiaoling, his sister. It happens with the archery. And it's, speaking of the archer, I've seen a few people say along the lines of, oh, of course, she had 1 day of training, which they even told you, and she became this amazing shot. No, she had 1 day of training and she had one amazing shot. It's not like she was up there being a Hawkeye style sharpshooter with the archery. We only saw her fire in battle. I think it was 3 arrows. And we really didn't even technically see her fire the one that hit the evil dragon guy.
Which during that scene, I was like, okay, Katie, shoot now.
Right.
How long is this taking?
And it's just, I believe that, when she was, even for that day, she was training with people who had done this, like their civilization, like they had done this for thousands of years. Like they know how to teach people how to shoot. And I'm like, I don't have a problem with her getting that one shot off. If she had been, just full on, totally cool under pressure, no problems being in the middle of the battle, picking off everybody, that I would have had a problem with. But just she got one lucky shot in, I'm good with that.
From a pretty big target also.
Yeah, it was like a soccer net. I guess I'll go in on Katie. Aquafina was fantastic. We all need a friend like Katie in our lives because she's ride or die with Shang-Chi, and she's like the Scottie Pippen for me. Anybody who she's the perfect co-star. She's the perfect running mate for him. I love her, and I just wanted to make note because when I saw her in the trailer, I honestly thought that all we were going to get was she was just going to be a device for humor, and that's all. We would only be, but she had, when there were moments to be serious, she didn't undercut any of those moments, but jokes. She let him breathe. She went out there and hugged him the night before everything was going to go down and made a great moment out of that. Didn't make a joke, which I appreciate because her jokes were everything she did was funny to me. And I, like Chris said, I really enjoyed her half being lost, had no focus. She even says, like, anytime I get like at something for a little bit, I have to quit and go to something else. She mentions that. So it's like finding your place. And I really, really enjoyed her little story. And every one of her jokes is very rare that happens. And I want to make a special shout out because when I watched the trailer, I thought she was going to be just like a pair of characters from Legends, Mona and Gary. And oh my God, she couldn't have been so far from that. I assume that's kind of the idea they had when they thought of those characters. But this is what they need to be: funny moments, but serious moments. Have backstory. It's so frustrating when you see such fantastic thing there and you see crap. You're just like, how do you not? Bravo to them. It was every scene she had, she stole for me.
And that's the great thing and bad thing about trailers sometimes, that you get to that conclusion and sometimes that it's bad enough for saying, I'm not seeing it because of that, which is unfortunate, but it does happen. But it is a nice surprise in this case to say they did a lot more with her character and thought enough about her as an actress that she deserved to be a lot more and given a lot more. And I think that's great. Let's talk about his sister. Xiaoling, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I think it's Xiaoling.
Xiaoling.
Yeah.
And the actress's name is Menjir Zhang.
And she is a badass.
Darn right.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say I really enjoyed the fact that they had her wear her comic accurate green dress at least once.
Yep.
In this, I wasn't even expecting it, to be completely honest. It's not like it's moments like that where you're just like the comic book nerd. You're just like, oh, they did the thing. It's the Leonardo.
Yep.
It's that meme. Ooh. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's so cool. But her character arc, and I know we will talk about the thing that happens after the credits. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to leave that out of this. But her character, it plays off of, like, of course, the misogynistic mindset of her father when he is building up the 10 rings. He says, basically, you're a girl, you can't do this. And she was like, well, F that. And she watches from the shadows everybody training, and she teaches herself. And she has one of the most badass lines in this entire movie when Katie is like, wait, so you taught yourself all of this and then you went to go build your own underground fight club? And she said, well, when my father wouldn't let me enter his empire, I had to create my own. And I was like, that is freaking awesome.
And it's interesting you say that, like, her father looking at her, you're a girl, you don't belong here. Who did he marry? Who owned his butt at that point?
I don't understand that aspect, but I understand what they were putting into the movie. I kind of just like, you know?
It's important to remember that when his wife died, he broke.
Yes.
He broke. And so he wasn't capable of that kind of logic of, oh, like, my wife whooped up on me the first time we met and made a fool of me. Like, he wasn't thinking that way. And maybe he'd tell you some nonsense about he was trying to protect her. But look at the life they're leading. She needed to know how to directly protect herself. And the fact that she was able to get as good as she is, as powerful as she is on her own with no formal training, just speaks to the natural talent that is. It speaks to her drive. It speaks to her own dedication that she has towards learning this thing that was important to her. She was an incredible character. And, I didn't really know what to expect of her going in from the trailers, because they really only show the one scene when they're going to fight in the fight club. And you get that scene and you get it and you realize, oh, he's not fighting back at all. And she's his enemy there. She's mad at him there, but in general, she's not. She's with him the rest of the movie. I am really excited that she survived and that they told us the 10 rings are going to return, because I want to know what happens next with her.
I really, when she is the quote unquote contender that Shang-Chi has to face when in the fight club at that point, and she's revealed, and she is taking all this anger that we don't know exactly what happened at that point. And then you eventually hear that I waited for years for you to come back. And at that point, when I got to 16 and realized you were never coming back, I left. But like you said, the training on her own, but the fact that I like that she beat him in the fight at that point. I think that speaks to her tenacity of never giving up, never accepting anything that I'm a lesser person. I didn't receive formal training. Yeah, screw you. I trained myself. Screw you. I built this entire illegal fighting operation, and anyone wants to not only fight in it, they want to watch and bet in it. At that point, she is shown up to what it is that she. Whether she wants to admit it or not, she looked up to her father and what he built and wanted to do something on her own and branded as this. Looking at her fighting at that point, I wish I looked up the weaponry that she was using.
She used the Kaioketsu. It's the chain with the kunai at the very end. She intricates, not just her, but the entire village at that point when they go to Talao. They use the dragon scales just like in the costumes. She uses the dragon scale as the dagger at the end of the chain. Absolutely amazing at the choreography and her fighting with that.
Tony, what do you think?
Badass, all the scenes, especially when she's training younger, also later on in the movie, when she's getting ready for the big battle. The one issue I have with the movie with her, not enough. I feel like she was a little bit of like, we see this amazing scene from her, and we don't really see it much. She has a few lines here and there, and then she's in the end battle. She should do more than what she was made for in the movie. She should have been more than just fighting like those soul-sucking like flying birds. Maybe facing the dad. It'd be like the family versus the family. Yes, Clay?
I have, because I've also seen a lot of people on Twitter say that as well. The only argument to that is that this is a greater MCU. They have a story for her, and I think we're going to see a lot more of her. This movie was an origin for Shang-Chi to introduce those characters. So seeing her very minimal, yeah, it sucks for the people who really enjoyed her character, but you're about to see her a lot more.
I want to take a moment and just talk about how awesome it is in Phase 4. All the powerful female characters we have basically running the show. We have the Power Broker, we have Val, we have Florence Pugh in there as well. She's not really running things, but we have Wanda.
I mean, you had Scarlett Johansson. I mean, that's a Phase 4 movie.
I was saying Florence Pugh now, basically in the MCU at this present time.
Captain Carter.
It's awesome to see, and just I was blown away by her. I thought I agree with Tony. Like I would like to see more, but as Clay said, this is an introduction to Shang-Chi and his characters in his universe. So we will get more as they did tease. I would have liked to see her face the father, but I can understand she didn't go through the same training that Shang-Chi did with his aunt. So I can understand leaving her to fight those as well. So I thought she was great. Like Chris said, the action for her, top notch, fantastic. And she had heart when she wanted to. She really conveyed the being left out, being like boys only club. And like you guys said, her just watching and training on her own, that is fantastic. And I can't wait to see what we get from her next, especially her scenes with Shang-Chi after what we see, the path that she chooses to go down.
Yeah. Well, let's continue kind of our strong female characters. Ying Li, their mother, and Ying Nan, their aunt. You know, both their presence in the scenes, looking at especially the mother and how she carries herself, not just fighting Wing Wu and the idea of how she's able to counter his thousands of years of experience.
Airbending.
What's that?
Airbending.
Yeah, airbending at that point. And then the aunt carrying on that way, but also pushing both of them to strive for more.
It was like art, Chris.
Yes.
They're fighting, especially... I know people say a little bit that we didn't get as much action in the second act, but we got this fantastic choreography going through katas, basically movements and set positions, and it's like a kind of like a dance. It's so, and we see teases of that in flashbacks of the mother and father fighting, we'll say, where she's basically guiding all his movements, and we get that played out when Shang-Chi's training with his aunt. So it's very nice to see to get that past first and get the present. And it just went well. And the heart, when she tells Shang-Chi to go inside, and then I can't believe the father would say, like, you stayed in there and did nothing. Just like, oh, you son of a bitch. Oh, I hate you. Why couldn't you be more like your mother? But just to see even the heart she must have had to get him to give up the 10 rings, which we can tell corrupts his mind. And he was basically greatest dad ever, greatest husband ever. Then she died and he went back to being complete master. But I mean, there was a time when she was alive that she had the power to even make this most evil man be good. So that's something we don't see very often as well.
I really enjoyed that action scene at the beginning with their mother facing Wenwu. Like it was just, you called it art, Travis. That fits. It was such a beautiful scene. Like it was this weird mix of like they were fighting each other. She's protecting her home, but they're also almost dancing as they're getting to know each other. And I guess if you want to call it a mating dance, we could say that since they end up getting together outside of there. But it was just a beautifully shot scene overall.
Well, especially when you get to the end and like Talo, I really think if we're not gonna get Iron Fist anytime soon, this is as close right now to mirroring Kung Lao as we're gonna get right now in the MCU.
There's people thinking that this could be alluding to, it's either shutting the door on or it's opening the door to Iron Fist.
Yeah. So I'm sure, Brent, you saw the same article that I saw. This whole idea that a lot of people were saying that the dragon in the trailer, and of course in this movie, they thought, "Oh, that's Fang Fang Foom."
I
Sure.
did
Now
too,
people,
but darn it.
now people are considering if it is opening the door for Iron Fist, this is the dragon that he literally punches to get the power of the Iron Fist.
Well, one thing I saw is the idea is like Kunlun is another one of these cities, like Talawas. Like it's another one of these hidden mystical cities on slightly different planes that you can't just go to like normal. You have to go through
10 years.
a trial, if you will, to get to it. In this case, the trial was the maze. If it's something along those lines, like this could be opening the door to an MCU version of Iron Fist. I'm totally open to that idea if that's what they're going to do. At the same time, they could be just taking ideas from it and barring, Shao-Lao, they had to defeat the Heart of the Dragon. They have the Heart of the Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
They did just as good a job in this movie explaining Tao Lao that as Iron Fist did, explaining Kung Lun, and they had 2 seasons to do it. So I was completely satisfied with what they presented to us. I really hope we get more, because this seems like, I think I was reading an article like this city was first introduced in the Thor book. So I mean,
yes.
Is there a chance we could see something like this in Thor 4? Maybe, I don't know.
I think that anything that plays with the idea of the fantastical, the mystical, is open to be integrated into all of it. But in talking about who was the mother's name? Not the actress, but the character name?
Ying Li, and the aunt is Ying Nan.
Okay. Wait, how do you pronounce the mother's name?
Ying Li.
Ying Li. Okay. She, when she was introduced in the forest, I had like hardcore freaking oh shoot, what was the Pixar dragon movie that
Raya?
Right? Which wasn't
Raya
a Pixar movie, but Aquafina is in it. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I thought it was Pixar. Sorry. All I know is that I saw it on Disney Plus.
well, they didn't get a theatrical release, at least not domestically. So everybody saw it on Disney Plus.
So I got hard vibes of that, but I love the. I genuinely think it's an homage to that of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Oh, so much.
It's such good fight choreography. Just recently, my wife Abby, she recently graduated college, and one of her last assignments, she had to watch that movie. So I had seen it within this past year, so it was fresh on my mind whenever I saw that. Amazing choreography. You guys hit it right on the head with it being kind of like a dance and a choreography. A lot playing along with the idea of like. Oh, shoot, what is that like type of yoga? Like I can't name it off the top of my head, but it was very smooth. It was very rhythmic.
Tai Chi.
Yeah, Tai Chi. It was a lot of that kind of movement.
Well, it works really well in the sense of yin and yang. That is Wen Wu and Ying Li. That fight shows.
And that was like I love when his aunt, Shang-Chi's aunt, in the middle of their fight, they were getting one up on each other. Mm-hmm. And then finally it started going into that more fluidity, starting to show him, hey, this is how you are supposed to move. And then all of a sudden she stops him and opens his hand. Like I will say, like everything dealing with the family, flashbacks, modern time, like I was getting emotional in this movie. It was so good.
Clay, I just want to say, because you were talking about that moment when she made him open up his hand. Honestly, they didn't say any words, but just from the visual, all I got was he's letting go of his hate and anger, and that's all I got. And that was like you said, it was a really
great visual aid. Yeah. But in going into his mother's death, I think that was something that needed to be shown.
Yes.
Because they were kind of lingering on it the entire movie. They were referencing it a whole bunch. And when they were talking about it in their family dinner, close to the beginning of the second act, it almost felt as though she like died naturally, whether it was of a sickness or whatever. She just all of a sudden died, and you're like, okay, well, like, wasn't that the whole point of you leaving the 10 rings? You are, you found a reason to grow old, that whole speech that he was giving to them. So I was very confused until you see the reasoning behind it, that it was literally his fault. And it, like, when talking about him, and I guess we can kind of go into, well, I'm not sure how many more protagonists or good guys
we got one more.
Okay. Well, we will talk about the father when we get there.
Yep.
But the death of his mother, completely heartbreaking, because like you see the moment, but then once we move forward in time modern, it goes back to some of her last words to Shang-Chi about how, like, hey, you have the heart of the dragon, which is from my family, but you also have your father's heart, and you can use them both, and like really kind of connecting the tissue to like in that third act. And you're just like, oh my God, like legit guys, I was all over the place with my emotions in this movie. It was so good.
Yeah, the dialogue, the scripting, the staging of it, it was very well done, to the extent that, like you said, I thought the same thing, Clay. I thought it was natural causes until we started getting more and more hints of what had actually happened and the motivations that change everything at that moment. And it builds on the characters, as a whole. But before we continue on, let's take our second ad break. So listeners, again, these ads keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So I'm going to give you that 3 count to turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right. So does anyone have anything else before we talk about and kind of change pace with a more humorous protagonist?
Nope, just got some crow to eat when we talk about this.
Oh,
All right. So Trevor Slattery, we knew he was back. That kind of got revealed on the red carpet that Ben Kingsley would be reprising his role. So I think we were all waiting for how that would be revealed. And so who wants to take the first stab at Mr. Trevor coming? Oh, okay, Travis, let him eat the crow now.
Yes, because when he first appeared, I loved it and enjoyed it, but it wore on me a little bit. It wasn't as funny when they kept going back to him, but I will admit, I was the only person in a sold-out theater that didn't think it was funny, apparently, because everything he said and did got roars to the point where at one point I was like, really? Like, am I missing something here? And then I go to the watch today, 20-something people. Really? Like, am I missing something here? Everyone laughing again. Like, he was a great hit for people not named Travis Hines, I guess, because I enjoyed some. He was like okay for me, but everyone else loved him, so I can't really crap on it because it just wasn't my taste. Some of his humor there, but I love that they brought him back. I love that the one shot is applicable here. It's all connected. It works here, and I love that we got more explanation because it's very easy to just leave that and never go back to him again, a la Justin Hammer. But I love even seeing him there. It makes me think, you know what? I could see Justin Hammer in any kind of TV show now or anything just from seeing him come back. And like I said, the whole audience loved him. But yeah, I was wrong. I thought, oh, this is not going to be funny. But it was. They were laughing more than they laughed the entire Suicide Squad movie, and was sold out as well.
I will say I am the exact opposite of Travis. I hated the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. The Trevor reveal I thought was dumb. It was the equivalent of what Snell thinks of Ralph Boner currently. It is how I treated Trevor in Iron Man 3. I didn't like it whatsoever. I am going to throw some shade at S-Bubs right now over at the Geekverse Discord. Without any warning, throughout this spoiler, and showed that Trevor was going to be in the movie. So I knew he was coming. And of course, we saw the red carpet. So, of course, you're like, okay, what does this mean? This also could have been referenced just for the fact that, they had the the small short which is now on Disney Plus. People go watch it. But they were leaving some breadcrumbs for the possibility of him returning anyway. When he was in this movie, I was laughing. The whole Planet of the Apes thing, I was rolling. It was legit funny. The whole idea of because it's so funny because it's not just that he's an actor being the Mandarin. This is Ben Kingsley, guys.
Yes.
This
Sir Ben Kingsley.
Sir Ben Kingsley. And just portraying this character of Trevor, he's all like, oh yeah, my motivation of becoming an actor was those monkeys that were on the horses. And they're like,
Planet of the Apes? Yes, that.
You're like, oh, he's got to come out to the fact that oh, he was so impressed that these people acting like they were apes. He's like, no, they trained these monkeys to be on these horses. But I saw behind the veil, they were only pretending to be on the horses. That was just so good.
So just to take the total opposite, I think the Trevor twist in Iron Man 3 is freaking brilliant because the Mandarin as the stereotypical Iron Man villain, which everyone wants to claim they were massive Mandarin fans and they're all full of it. They weren't. Nobody was. He wouldn't have worked. He wouldn't have worked. He was a massive racist stereotype. He needed to be radically changed. And they didn't have that then. They have it now. They have the story now. They had the way they wanted to change him now. But using Trevor in that movie is absolutely, I think it's a hysterical moment that totally messes with audience expectations. And I think that's the reason people don't like it, because they truly got fooled and they didn't know it. But bringing him back for this is fantastic. I mean,
it was great.
Just acknowledging it when he was like, oh, everyone was afraid of an orange. That alone was enough. And then we all, as soon as we saw him on the premiere red carpet, we knew he was in the movie. Of course he was. They're not going to bring him to the premiere otherwise. He's not going to bother showing up to the premiere otherwise. But when we actually see him in the movie, he is really funny. I wouldn't say I found him completely hysterical, belly laughs the entire time he's on screen, but I enjoyed his sense of humor. I enjoyed what he brought to the movie. I love that in Iron Man 3, he's watching soccer in the background while Tony Stark is interrogating him. And in this, we see him playing soccer with the kids at the village. Right?
Yeah.
So it's just those little kind of touches. My 12-year-old nephew was with me the other night, and he actually just watched Iron Man 3 for the first time, and within the last week. And he said he thinks that Trevor and Morris should have their own movie or their own show. He absolutely loved them. And you know what? I mean, I'm glad they were there. I'm really glad they were able to do that. That's one of those ties I was talking about, that if you've seen the larger MCU, means something more. If you haven't, you just think it's some random guy who pissed off Win Wu and they took him captive. And that it works at that level too.
Yeah.
When he's pretending to die. Oh my god!
The playing dead. Oh, that
and
was
then
so
Morris
good.
rolled over.
I knew he was playing dead, but just seeing it play out was so funny.
Yeah, exactly. Tony, what did you think of Mr. Slider making his MCU reappearance?
See, I thought at first, at most, we're going to see a small little cameo, maybe him on a TV screen or a picture, especially after the Mandarin said, he made a reference to him and saying about Iron Man 3. So, okay, we're probably not going to get much of him, but no, I was surprised to see him as much of a presence as he was. He did work for me with all of his lines, especially with him playing dead, because I thought he was dead. Oh no, please do not die. What he was saying, I was like, yes, he's still alive.
He's like a cockroach. You can't kill him that easily.
I'm glad we can't.
I liked how he had a little bit. One, I like that we have now made, All Hail the King really canon even more. at that point. That
To be clear, it was always from Marvel Studios. Like the shorts have always been canon. They're from Marvel Studios. It's only the stuff not from Marvel Studios that's in question.
True. I just like that we're actually referring to a short directly at this point.
Well, What If did also. So we had 2 of those in the last month.
Yeah. So the idea of his growth and realizing that, I I took a chance on this and now I'm captured and just living day to day, wondering if I'm going to be killed off at this point. But what I got the biggest chuckle out, besides him, pretending to dead, because as soon as I saw him there, it's, he's not dead. He's playing dead at that point. I really liked it when we get introduced to Morris and they're like, oh my God, what is this? I said, oh, you can see him? Oh, thank God. I thought I was still having a bad trip at this point. I thought, and then, where's his face? Don't talk about that. He's sensitive to
He's
that.
sensitive about it.
That got my biggest laugh at that point. It's like, you thank God you can see him. I thought I was crazy.
I know Trevor is like the last like protagonist, but I will say the mystical creatures in Talau were awesome. The almost like Avatar-esque like deer dragons. I'm not entirely sure what you would call them. They look great. I really enjoy like the giant like lion dog thing. I don't even know what you
give
can.
one of them a hug so bad.
They are called foo dogs. They're foo dogs. They are usually statues that are foo dogs. They're placed in front of statues to guard shrines.
Okay, they looked amazing. We didn't see a whole lot of them, mainly I'm sure because of budgeting reasons. But when they were on screen, especially like when they started to like gear up and like had armor and stuff, it was so good.
Mm-hmm. When they were putting the armor on the one lion thing, I won't lie, I did think of Battle Cat from He-Man.
Yeah,
like, not in a bad way. It's just where my head went.
Yeah. Well, let us get into our main antagonist with a few minors that joined him along the way. Zhu Wenwu, played by Tony Leung. I want to start this off. I'd said in my predictions post credits a couple days ago that I was hoping that we have a new kind of new top tier villain at that point, not maybe making to top, but in watching him, I think he did an outstanding job. It was an outstanding antagonist. He's definitely not the top, but he's in my probably 4 or 5 for quote unquote villain antagonist in the MCU. The heartbreak of understanding why his motivations were after his wife were there. I mean, because you see exactly 1,000 years, he's just conquering and conquering. He can't help but want to do the next biggest thing in the sense of gaining more power. And I'm trying to hold back for the end credits because I have a theory about what the rings really are at that point. So I want to kind of get into that, and especially where the coloring changes in the sense of when it goes to Shang-Chi versus Wenwu. The idea that we get a person running this empire of the 10 rings. One of the questions I have, and I don't know if they'll answer it, and we ever get an answer, was we go back to Iron Man 1. Was that group that kidnapped Tony, was it a splinter group of the 10 rings, or did they just hijack it to further their idea? If they did hijack it, maybe if timelines line up, this was either when Wu was stepping away from the 10 rings or when he was gaining back his power and just didn't have a hold of the organization at that point.
Well, if you look at the timeline, technically, I would think that because his wife dies when Shang-Chi is 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So like somewhere in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
Because I think right now Shang-Chi is supposed to only be 24 years old, which I think is a little weird. But I mean, it works.
Yeah.
But timeline wise, I think it would be like technically he would still be in like running it.
Yeah. So I don't know if they'll ever answer that, but the sequence of him taking out the organization that killed his wife.
Oh,
That
cinematography was so good.
That I am so glad they showed. I mean, we saw parts of it in the trailer, and I didn't know where they were going with that. But seeing now in context, that is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And how the anger, the sadness, and just like I'm vengeance incarnate. You will not live to see another day.
His son's there the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because he's learning a lesson. A blood debt must be paid with blood.
Yes.
Winwoo, I mean, it was so fantastic. And I know I mentioned that earlier, but I want to comment on the way he used the 10 rings to propel himself through the air, like ropes or lassos, if you will. Like just he would use them as projectiles. It was so stunning just to watch, and Shang-Chi did it later too when he ended up with the rings. It was so stunning just to watch the way they would use these rings just in different methods of destruction. He used them as shields in the opening scenes of the movie to block all those arrows. He was in that scene you just referenced when he went after the killers of his wife. He used them to block gunfire. And those things, they're clearly powerful, and I like the change. I like the change from the comics. The comics, they were basically just rings, and he would have looked like, like that Green Lantern cover with Hal Jordan where he's got all the rings on his fingers. Basically, he looked like that, and I like this change to it. I think it's a good change, and the rings were just so much fun to watch.
You didn't want to see him like Tom Brady, did you?
Big plug for it. If you've never seen Tony Leung in Infernal Affairs, highly recommend that movie. If you ever seen The Departed, that is what The Departed was based off of. Outstanding movie.
I definitely need to see it then. I love The Departed. I haven't seen
Infernal Affairs. Infernal
Affairs. Okay, I have to put it on the list. But Brent said it first a little bit, kind of teasing this whole portion of the podcast, talking about how he is seen as evil, but you can't really call him evil. His motivations, his motivations are sincere because he's truly just being tricked. And I think that adds to the heartbreak of the whole family dynamic between Shang-Chi, his sister, the death of their mother, unfortunately, just tore apart their family. And, that whole scene where he goes and kills the mob that killed his wife, we see again another scene where he is breaking down in front of the rings and talking about how, like, this is all my fault. If I had the rings, if I had never taken them off, this would have never have happened. Like, he is really genuinely in love with this woman. That is very odd because, like you all said, he's been alive for like 1,000 years. He was always power hungry. Him meeting his wife was in search of more power. And he found something that he was like, okay, this satisfies me in such a capacity. I no longer want to fight. I no longer want to be a head of an organization. I want to build a family. And getting all of that to finally get to the point where he thinks he's genuinely going to be face to face with his wife again, like, it's heartbreaking. It's genuinely heartbreaking to the point where it's like, if I have to fight my son to get to my wife, that's what I'll do. And I don't know if
one more day.
I don't know if I'm the only one that kind of made this connection, and I might be reaching, but I find it very ironic that we got what if Tony Stark, or what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands, because it's kind of in the same light.
You're not the only one. I had similar thoughts.
Okay. Yeah. I saw a lot of similarities in the mindset of them both. And then, because just like how Doctor Strange realized that it was too late in those last moments, you could tell that Wenwu thought the exact same thing when the soul-sucking demon grabbed him, and like it went into slow motion so that way you could see the reaction of him and the reaction of Shang-Chi. But it was just like in that moment of time, he was like, "Hey, I made the wrong mistake. Take these rings and do right with them." And I like his story was so good, from being like the conqueror, what was his nicknames? He had like 3 of them that he said in the movie.
Those who've seen it more than once, you will know.
I think. Well, I've only seen it once.
I'm talking to the others that have seen it.
I think it was like the destroyer of all things or something like that.
One of them was like Gene Khan or something along those lines. He said 2 or 3 names. I don't remember what they all were, but one of them was similar to the destroyer. It wasn't the conqueror. The conqueror. That's somebody else. That's on. That's on.
Yeah,
Loki.
Wasn't an orange either.
It's not an orange.
No, it was not an orange.
I stuffed myself full of popcorn and didn't pay attention to that part.
going from being a complete badass to like thinking that he is genuinely going to bring his family back, to then realizing like, oh shit, I kind of got in my own way here. Like, I loved his story.
I enjoyed his story. I thought he was great. I thought there was some issues with the writing. Just in terms of, he was evil before he met his wife, became good. Like we saw him do the flash dance and have fun montage of happiness.
Dance
there.
Revolution.
And then when she dies, he puts on the rings and goes back to starting up his empire again. I want to know how quickly into starting up his empire did he hear his wife's voice? Was it immediately when he put on the rings? Because I watched it twice, and I don't think they mentioned when exactly he started hearing her voice. So that's something I'm curious.
He just mentioned that it was in his study. He's like,
Yeah.
I was sitting right here. Her hand was on my shoulder. Her whisper was on my cheek. Like he described the sensation of everything, but he didn't describe the time.
Okay. I was curious about that, because we get a lot here. Ultimately, is anybody that like he puts his family is second. He leaves his 2 kids are second. His first thing is revenge, and his second mindset is this will never happen again. So instead of doing what it should be, dealing with the 2 kids, showing them love, compassion, doing the things that the mother did, none of that. The kids are just they're left to deal with it on their own, which.
Travis, you can have more kids with your wife. Like, you get the wife first, and then you bring your kids back. And if they don't want to come back, you just get new ones.
Well,
a foolproof plan.
The mother says to him, "You're the best parts of both of us," essentially. And then the father's just like, "Screw you, kids! I want your mother back. Leave me alone."
What do you think, Tony, about Wenwu?
Throughout the movie, some parts I liked him, parts did not. I wish we saw him fighting without the ranks more, to show like that he's a skilled fighter, but he doesn't really need the ranks. Otherwise, like, to me, it lessens the villain a bit. Because to me, like, you're the head honcho of this organization. I assume that you're a kick-ass fighter. I want to actually like see you do it without you using your guns, basically. But the death, I was surprised about that. I was a bit surprised of him just like going. I thought we'd see him like maybe in one more movie.
Multiverse, maybe.
Do we think
I called the death like before the movie started.
Do we think there's a chance that we see in a future movie, or it doesn't have to be in the Shang-Chi sequel? Do you think we see him finding the rings, the actual him finding the rings? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I think we'll hit on that when we start going into the post-credit scenes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think so. But
Maybe this year.
Yeah, maybe. We'll do really quick. Razor Fist and Death Dealer. I'm very happy. I'm not necessarily. I know Travis and Geekverse, was talking about like Death Dealer seems like to throw away. comic accurate in a way that Death Dealer in the comics was a friend of Shang-Chi turned evil, and he dispatched him and killed him very quickly. So he's not a big part of the comics necessarily, but a cool looking, just amazing fighter. I want to give the actor a shout out at that point. Andy Lee just did a outstanding job with martial arts at that point. Just outstanding work.
I think that it's almost not to the degree, because I feel like if I say this, people will start yelling at me. It's almost the Taskmaster effect of hey, we're gonna throw in this character to be this ominous type of villain towards the protagonist. In that aspect, people don't come at me, whatever. But
I feel like he's not as well known as Taskmaster, though. That's a bit of an issue.
And that's what I mean, though. It helps him that he is not well known, because you get him in a whole bunch of these flashbacks before you see Shang-Chi actually be able to fight him, which holy shit, that fight scene alone, I think is the contender for the best fight scene in this movie. Now, I'm not going to say that it is, because I like the usage of the freaking 10 rings and all the mystical stuff. I love all of that. I eat that up all the time. But the passing of the kunais and going back and forth with it, and the split hesitation that Shang-Chi has, but then goes in for the kill and he stopped, kind of shows you what kind of character Shang-Chi could be. He doesn't have really a lot of limitations. I'm sure that's going to change being an Avenger, but who knows? But the whole thing with the Death Dealer, I genuinely think that just showing a badass character for one movie is not a crime at all.
No, I think that was a marketing ploy that people built up a little bit more about. Oh, this is going to be bigger. I never built that up because I know a little bit more about the character. I was not expecting enough. I was not expecting me a lot. I just like that I got to see it. I personally got to see enough of it. I don't equate it as a Taskmaster. Taskmaster was a much different scenario, but I understand what you're meaning, Clay, and what people are doing with it. So
I understand the Taskmaster comparison. Worth noting, Taskmaster had more character development than Death Dealer did, because Death Dealer was there wasn't a single line. The only reason people are upset about the death of Death Dealer is he looks cool. It's a cool costume. And you know what? They're right. It is a cool costume. But we have the memory, he could have just had the same costume that all the other, random henchmen of the 10 rings had, and it would have changed literally nothing about the story. He never talked about this deep-seated hatred he had for the character or whatever. He had memories of him training him, but he didn't talk about how stressful it was or how traumatic it was having to deal with Death Dealer, or how good he felt getting his revenge on him and beating him in battle finally after all these years. I'm going to say it. He really wasn't a character. He was just random henchman who had a cool outfit. And that was enough. Razor Fist wasn't much more, if we're being honest. He was a little bit more, but it wasn't about them. He might as well just been
name Razor Fist.
I think we should fight together.
Death Dealer, he could have he's random cannon fodder. And so if he had lived, okay, cool. He didn't. Okay, who cares? They did nothing with his character to get anyone to care other than make him look cool. He's Darth Maul, basically, in the first prequel of Star Wars.
All these Death Dealer fans are coming out of the woodwork saying, "How dare you ruin our character?"
They're all full of it. Nobody's ever even heard of them.
I didn't know the character existed, Brent, but I will say it was a little bit of a missed opportunity for me because of showing the past of him training him and being so hard on him. Him whipping him, his father looking over and nodding at him and whipping him again. I thought I don't even think it didn't bother me, but if this movie was 20 minutes longer, you could have had just a couple extra scenes and then the showdown with them being a bit more pivotal, where even just a couple lines of dialogue, because that's
sure,
they could have
putting
changed
more
the story.
emphasis, putting more emphasis on that character, though, I feel changes the movie, and even when he looked at
Wenwu for like approval to continue. He was just a tool. He was just a tool. He was the hammer, basically, to help him. Like, that's why Shang-Chi doesn't seem to care about him, because he even understands that. It was his father who put him through all that training. It was his father who sent him to become a murderer. It wasn't Death Dealer. Death Dealer was just collateral.
But they did set him up in the fight, like kind of made him a little bit more than what he was in the end. Like, they made him out to be a harder to fight than Razor.
Marketing wise, but not story wise.
Yeah.
In the actual story, the fight with Razor Fist lasted longer than.
Oh, I know that.
He won up Death Dealer. Like, Death Dealer was beat. He was beat quick.
Your expectations for thinking he's going to be more is what I'm trying to say. Is the bit of the marketing may give you some expectations, but if, like you said, if you're any bit of the fan of the comics, you know, like you and Chris said, he's a throwaway character, and that's what he was here. So, like I said, if this movie was 2.5 hours, I would have liked a little bit more on them, but this movie flowed for me, so I was fine with that. I was fine with him losing a soul,
especially with Razor Fist just being the one that survives. It's like, okay, you need the dumb henchman that survives that will follow at that point. It's like, poor guy lost his car. He needs
got a brand new blade though.
Yeah, exactly. Tony, you look like you're about to say something.
Now, both these characters, I didn't even know they had a name until like this morning to listen to Travis and the Geek First. I was like, who that was Death Dealer? So I looked him up, I'm like, oh, that's who he was.
Yeah, he had no name at least mentioned in there.
Yeah, so like that threw me off. Even like Razor Fist, like, because the scene was very quick when they got to the car, so I didn't recognize, oh wait, that's actually his legit name. So like, oh, that's his name. That's cool, I guess. But he was in the movie longer than I thought he was gonna be. For Razor Fist, like, oh, cool, we're gonna see him in the beginning. No. He keeps on being playing, which I didn't mind. The one thing I mind with him is like that the way that he says, oh, let's just switch sides now. Let's help you guys down. Like, oh, okay, I guess you want to be a little bit funny, but like that's one joke. I was like, I kind of wish they just scratched that little of a joke. But besides that, I'm glad that he survived, and I'm surprised when we talk about the post-credit scene. I'm surprised by that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god, I'm so glad that they had this design for Razor Fist. I just looked up what he looks like in comics. Holy crap!
I know, it's just amazing in that sense. It's like, oh well. All right, so we're gonna take our final ad break. We'll close out with, like, I know there's one scene we have not talked about, and I kind of put it off to the side because it's just, we saw it in the trailer. We're gonna need to talk about it. All right, so again, ads come on. They help support the network. We appreciate you listening. And 3, 2, 1 to save those eardrums. All right. Is there anything least favorite about that? Were there any, like, for me, there was some bad CGI at points.
I have 2 things worth of CGI that I want to mention, but I'm going to start by saying the rest of the movie made me forget about the first one, which was the very end of the bus scene when they crash to a stop. You saw the bad CGI there, mm-hmm. and I kind of cringed a little bit, but the rest of the movie got me hooked. I was okay with it. The second time that I was just like, on the CGI was maybe some of the crazy scenes with the dragon. Otherwise, when like the dragon overall, I think more often than not looked really good, but there was some nitpicks of those scenes that I was just like, you probably could have polished it a little bit more. But other than that, I was fine with it.
Anyone else got some nitpicks?
I mean, I guess I'll nitpick, and man, nitpick is truly the word for it. The initial fight between Wenwu and his would-be wife, and then later it's repeated with Shang-Chi and Wenwu, just the weird camera angle following just their head as they went in a circle around each other. They both happened with both times, and obviously the second one was a callback to the first. Looked a little funny to me there. And when they first get to Tell Al, there's, the funny-looking horse, as Trevor called it. The background on that screen looked a little weird to me, but other than those, I really don't have the CGI complaints. I love the look of the dragons and the soul suckers, the big one, the little ones, like all that stuff I was really into. So I really don't have any other real CGI complaints outside thest of nitpicks.
I'm trying to think, nothing really come out at my eye like comparative to for example, Captain Marvel, where the helmet go down for the first time. That was kind of jarring. Here, I didn't get much in terms of bad CGI, and I even really enjoyed the change of pace. We went from one-on-one fighting to martial arts, to mix it up martial arts, to we got a like Avengers Infinity War in-game style, like everybody get like a big battle. So I enjoyed the different variety of fighting we had throughout this. I don't know, actually one criticism all we got from the sister was she just looked down and saw her father dead, said no words, and looked back up and just continued on. So
Yeah, because screw him. He's
I mean,
screwed
that-
him.
that was
That's
bad.
basically my idea of like she hated him so much. She was just like, well, I guess I have some things to do when I get home.
Do you guys
See you,
think?
Dad.
Do you think that she thinks Shang-Chi killed their father? I've seen it
That was-
speculated, but it
Ooh.
seems to me like it would have been kind of obvious if she was, watching it all, that the giant evil soul-sucking dragon had him.
I think that if it does play out in any kind of capacity, whether it's being questioned or not, we will see it on screen. I think that there will be a little bit of a conversation between them, if it's even something that they want to play around with, in the sense of like, oh, well, how do I know that you didn't kill Dad, or something along those lines. I'm throwing really bad dialogue out there, but
They don't
I
need
think
that.
they don't.
No.
I'm not saying that they need to, but I've also seen it being questioned whether she thinks it or not, because of that little glance. The glance over to him can be interpreted plenty of different ways. I could see how people can think that maybe she's questioning it, but with the story that we got, I saw it more as like, good riddance.
Yeah,
I
same here.
would be surprised if that's the route they do go, saying, "Did you kill father?" Especially like, you have all these other deaf people who died in the same way. Like, I think she's gonna connect the guys. Like, oh wait, the dragon killed Dad.
Well, you got enough tension between them with Shang-Chi leaving and never coming back for her. So I don't think you need to add the father killing the father part to it. I don't know why she would care. She seemed to hate him, like Clay said. So I just think that it would be perfect the way they are now. You don't need to add that. She doesn't need to forgive him for abandoning him for as long as he did. I never heard her say that once throughout this entire film, that she forgave him for what he did.
Yeah. All right, I want to talk about the scene we haven't talked about. We saw it in the trailers. Let's talk about it. Wong versus the Abomination. And Abomination, yes, confirmed. It wasn't much there, but that was Tim Robbins reprising his role.
I love how Wong defeated him.
Oh,
Screw you,
God.
Grant.
So
Screw you,
it was
Grant.
good.
So I got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Because I immediately thought about it when I saw it on screen, and then I guess Geekverse kind of confirmed the thought that other people might think the same thing. Are they trying to make money on the side? Like, because it looks like either whether it be like a recreational thing, like, hey, you're a prisoner, but for good behavior, we'll let you fight in this fight club, or like, hey, I know a way we can make some dough. Let's go to this fight club. Like, it seemed a little odd when
They were
Wong
chummy
opened-
afterwards.
They were chummy. They were giving each other like a back and forth, like, hey, you got to watch those punches, But when he opened the portal, it did look like some kind of containment.
Be the raft.
That's what
I
found.
thought it was something along the lines of like what Loki put Hulk in, or wanted to put. It was built for Hulk, but of course it was Thor in the Avengers movie. What do you guys think?
It definitely looked like dark and metallic in there. So my first thought was the raft. It could just be
It's the place where they hold Magneto.
Yeah, could be that. It's definitely some sort of era where Wong is getting him out of for, like you said, for good behavior or something. Like it's something that he's escorting him back there. It's at that point. So Abomination is not chilling at the Fight Club.
I just want to say, Brent said to myself and Chris on Wednesday, I can't believe how easily you think Wang is going to beat Abomination. And not going to say he easily beat Abomination. So that was what the screw you, Brent, was for a little earlier. He just smiled and said, I can't believe how you guys think. I was like, when he got smacked back, I was like, what? Why am I not going to get killed? Brent would tell us that, right?
No, he wouldn't tell you that.
I know.
Heck no.
Tony, what did you think about, like, Abomination's evolved, very obviously evolved from where we left him in The Incredible Hulk? What did you think about that?
Great design. I'm wondering, especially what we're gonna see in like She-Hulk, like are we gonna see the continuation of how we got from Incredible Hulk to Shang-Chi and either like She-Hulk and how they met up? Can he go back to his human form? The design was amazing. Great job with more of the comic appearance. That's one thing that a lot of people who've seen Incredible Hulk was like, oh wait, is that who Abomination? Because they probably won't recognize him at all, unless you're part of unless you're like in the know, like how like we are. Mm-hmm. But like a normal general audience who've seen both of the films, I doubt they're gonna connect the dots with like, oh, he's the same guy from that movie, especially how it looks vastly different.
I bet they do.
Really?
Tim Rothman's coming to She-Hulk.
Oh,
they brought
I
back
think
the same actor.
I think they make the connection with She-Hulk, but not with this one, because they didn't name him Abomination like by name in the movie.
Well, okay, no, but I mean Kevin Feige did in an interview, but when we are going to see Abomination again. They're not bringing him back and redesigning him just for Wong to punk him in 30 seconds. And so we are going to see him again, and that will be like, oh, he's the monster from Shang-Chi that was in that Fight Club. Oh, and he was in the Incredible Hulk, and his look has changed. And I liked his look in Incredible Hulk, but this is way better. This look is really good.
This is more traditional. It looks
really
good.
Is. Yeah. And so, no, like we're going to know. This is again one of those little larger MCU things. If you know, you know, and if you don't, it doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah.
Now, do you think they should have kept this out of the trailer?
Yes.
How quick this was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was like what 10 seconds longer than what was in the trailer.
Mm-hmm. I would say even less.
But you might be right about that. So yes, I do agree.
I can understand.
I don't see.
It brought a lot of talk to Shang-Chi for sure.
I wish I hadn't seen it in a trailer. Let me put it that way. But I actually no, from a business standpoint, Clay just said it. It got a lot of people talking, and so I from a marketing move, I think it worked. I just wish, for me selfishly, that I did not know about it.
You bring up a good point, Clay, in the sense of it's a first-time character that really most of the GA have no idea who Shang-Chi was at that point. So, and it was the trailer that got more people talking than the first one. The first one did not do as much as they wanted to. The second one, where they brought in the Abomination, that's what I saw. I was literally at the airport waiting for a flight at St. Lucia, scrolling Twitter and everything. Is this Abomination? This looks to be Abomination. It got people talking, but. All right, we've all been waiting to talk about these end credits. Let's start talking about the end credits. We'll talk about the big, long first one where, we end with, at the end of the movie, we see Wong come back and take Katie and Shang-Chi to either the Sanctum Sanctorum, the library, whatever, and we flash and they're analyzing the rings, and Wong says the codex, they have no record of what these rings are in the codex, which says something. And then we flash to Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, holographic image, acknowledging nothing that she can see based on that. And then next to her, human Bruce Banner, still in a sling at that point, also saying that nothing that he's seeing can acknowledge where these rings are coming from. Or obviously, I think they've all come to the conclusion that they're somewhat alien in origin, but nothing that they've encountered yet. Carol takes off, leaving Bruce saying, "You want me give his number." Very typical of Carol. If we've seen her already, it's like, "No, I don't have that number." Well, basically, Bruce telling Shang-Chi, "Welcome to a bigger world," unofficially, welcome to the Avengers and things like that. But I was starting more and more thinking about what these rings are, since they're not the typical rings of we're used for those of us like the rings of the Mandarin. What if this is the way that they get introduced is the Marvel MCU's version of the quantum bands, in the sense of it's huge cosmic it's the worthiness of it. And this is what I wanted to get into, that when you see the quantum bands, they've been worn by so many different people in the comics at that point. To unlock the full power of the quantum bands, you must be worthy. The unworthy can wield them and use them. They cannot unlock the full power. So you notice when Wu has them, it's a different color at that point. But when Shang-Chi wields him, it's a completely different color, almost the same kind of, if it's coming from outer space, the color set is cosmic, like Carol Danvers' powers at that point. They're very good with colors in the MCU. So if they're drawing power, where are they drawing power from? Why can't they find it? Here's another connection I'm thinking. The quantum realm. They're drawing power from the quantum realm, which they have no codex for. They have no knowledge from. We start bringing that connection in. And who are they contacting? What did the beacon that when they activated at that point, when Shang-Chi had it, what is the beacon? Could this be our connection to the Eternals, where the Eternals, there's a celestial egg on our planet launching a celestial, and who is out there to keep the celestials in check, signaling there is a celestial being on here? That would be Galactus.
That's interesting. I definitely am with you on the Celestials connection, the potential Eternals connection. I would not be surprised if we found out that during part of the history scene that we saw in this movie, that the Eternals were actually viewing it, that they were actually over to the side watching it. Like, I would not be at all surprised to find that out and tracking the rings. The quantum band, turning these rings and merging them with the quantum bands is exactly something they would do. They definitely would do this kind of thing. They've done it before. The Eye of Agamotto, for example, being the time stone. Mm-hmm. They're two separate things in the comic books, but they put them together in the movies. I think that's a really clever idea. A really clever idea that they do that. And, they mentioned Banner said it's not vibranium. They said it's not Chitauri. They asked how long Wenwu had it, and they said about 1,000 years, and go, well, it's clearly way older than that. And how long is the Eternal supposed to take place over? 7,000 years, something like that.
Years.
Mm-hmm. To me, it fits, and
it was a celestial that created the bands to keep them to be there to protect the egg or the celestial baby there at that point from Galactus.
I would not be at all surprised if we found out that you were right about that. I think that's a really good idea.
So my only experience with the quantum bands is Quasar, like old Quasar.
Yeah.
I don't know of anything modern that I could really read to get some backup on it, or at least like something. Because I mean,
it's a deep cut. I'll admit it. It's
a deep cut. So I was just like, whew, it's a little crazy. Because I did not think of the bands at all. As soon as you started talking about your theory, I was like, okay, we're all thinking the same thing, Eternals. And then you threw quantum bands. I'm just like, hard stop. Hold on. Let me go back and think about this. I genuinely think that this is a really fun way to introduce the Eternals into the more broad MCU that we all know, because we know from the trailer, okay, they've been here for a very long time. Like, how are they going to connect to these heroes that we all know and love? This is a really easy way in doing that. And I would love to see those moments, Brent, of, seeing Win Wu taking over, a village or a large piece of land or city, and freaking the Eternals are there just watching. Like, I think that would be really, really cool. But also, non-smart Hulk. What is up with that? We well, no,
He's
it's
not
just
Hulk,
like
he's not hulked out. He's not
he's
Professor
not
Hulk.
hulked out. That's what I mean. 'Cause
Right. Last we saw, he
whole-
had taken the brains and the brawn and he put them together, went 18 months in a lab or whatever it was, put them together. No, his arm is still hurt from the snap, obviously, from his snap.
Mhm.
And then he's human. What the heck? Now, out of story, cynically, well, we know that he's going to appear in She-Hulk and they don't want to pay for the CGI through all the show.
Clearly.
But as somebody who really liked Professor Hulk, I would like to see Savage Hulk again. I'm totally down for seeing, or even something closer to what we got in Thor Ragnarok if he doesn't go full blown Savage with it. So my guess is his arm will heal the next time he becomes a Savage version of the Hulk. But I was floored. I love that they're still doing the space-time conversations like they did in Avengers Endgame. I love that that's still a thing. It's awesome. And we had no idea that these characters were going to appear. And how great is it, the meta commentary on, Banner saying, "Welcome to the circus," and Wong basically saying, like, the trajectory of your life is never going to be the same. That's basically what Feige said to Simu Liu when he called him to offer him the part.
No, I love the oh, guys, something's happening. Gotta go. You can get my number from him. I don't have her number. She does this all the time. I'm like, I thought that was, you can't have a Marvel movie without the Marvel humor. And sometimes it doesn't hit for me. This movie was hitting almost 100% of the time. But I'm curious with that whole post-credit scene, like, they made it a point to say, "Hey, Katie, you also need to come with us."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if, like, behind the scenes or off screen, she is keeping that bow and arrow, or, like, are they going to develop her character more, or is she just going to be the guy in the chair? Like, what do you guys think?
Tony, what do you think about that?
I mean, I was wondering myself honestly for a while because it just feels odd to have her there. It's almost as if, like, you have, like, Darcy, like, hey, come on, let's join the team. Best guess, she's working on that bow and arrow because, like, as you're saying, all through her life, she's not that great in many things, and now maybe she is slowly but surely picking up archery and becomes great at it. Either that, or maybe she learned some magic from Wong.
She's a new creation, right? From, like, she was not comics.
Not
She's
that I
new.
know
Like
of,
Darcy.
but
Like Darcy.
I don't even think she needs to learn to be, like, a fighter or archer or something like that. She can just be emotional support, and that could be enough.
Mm-hmm.
She'd just be a sidekick, which, I think would fit perfectly here. And we need somebody like that. You need an average person, not an average person, but a regular human, sorry, not abilities, going along with these characters.
I know, at least in my theater, there was definitely an audible gasp when they all saw Carolyn and Bruce.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
that definitely, that landed a lot better. That was really cool. They were able to keep that secret. But so, yeah, this has got to be the Brent. I'll go to you. Is this the longest mid-credit scene of this type of one?
I don't know definitively the actual timelines, but it felt like it was. It definitely felt like it was the longest credit scene because they did a lot because they then ended with the karaoke joke. And so there was a lot in there. Now, there's been a couple others that felt like quite a bit, but I will tell you this. I think that they've been the best credit scenes in a while because while I do appreciate the joke credit scenes for what they are, I prefer the let's move the ball forward credit scenes. Let's tease what's coming up. And in this, we'll get to the second one here in a minute, but both credit scenes were doing that. They were both setting up future plot lines. And this still they managed to incorporate the joke into it. It did just feel more organic to me than a random ant playing the drums in the hallway or whatever it is.
Exactly. So let's head into the second one, where we see his sister looking like taking some stuff down, maybe an apartment of some sort at that point, and then we see Razor Fist.
It was her room in the, because they sat in that exact same room when they had the discussion of like, so what am I like, when Katie was kind of scared for her life.
Sure,
it was her bedroom.
It was her bedroom. It was just one of those things like I couldn't remember at the time. When I first saw it, I'd forgotten it was there. But yeah, taking stuff off the room, Razor Fist comes in and she walks out, sits on the throne, and then the music crews up, and she was not disbanding her father's empire. She was rebranding her father's empire for new person in charge.
And complete with no more of the sexist BS. The women are right there training with the men.
In front.
Probably. There's probably more girls.
And so it ends with the 10 rings will return. So, gentlemen, my question to you is, where do we see them next? Do we see them on Disney Plus first, or do we see them back in the film?
Disney Plus.
The 10 rings in general, or the organization?
Just this 10 rings. Where do we see it? Says it will return. Where will they first appear?
In a Disney Plus show announced on Disney Plus Day, November 12th.
I say Armor Wars.
To Brent's point, they did this exact same thing with Mandalorian and Book of Boba. So I could really see something like this happening here, where we get that. And you could even involve, you don't have to involve Shang-Chi, but you can involve other characters from this world as well.
I can understand Disney Plus. I don't know the reach of Armor Wars though. So that'll be interesting how they like bring the two together.
Yeah.
Why do we think they're going to? I've heard other people say that too, and I'm not. The only connection is the Mandarin, and he's dead.
Well, I was just saying in the sense of reaching power and acquiring power at that point, doing something different than what it is at that point.
Oh,
maybe
that's true.
In the sense of this is maybe where we get another appearance of the Power Broker, and this is a connection that this new 10 rings can make.
Yeah, and
that's all.
Like I've seen some sentiment that like, oh, she's taking over. She's going to change all the rules. They're going to be fighting the fight for the good. I'm saying that's absolute BS.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is her title at her own fight club was the local killer or something along those lines. Like they called her a local killer. She is not a great person. And she kind of showed it through her first introductions and the kind of person that she was inevitably wanting to be. Because Chris, just like how you said, she was kind of motivated and looked up to her father. So in a sense, of course, she hated him, but she looked up to him in a weird aspect. This aligns really well with current Shang-Chi comics right now. In the current Shang-Chi comics, he actually becomes the leader of this organization. I don't think it's called the 10 Rings in the comics, but in his aspect, like he's trying to make it good, but he does have a little sister in those comics that kind of wants to keep the same kind of mentality of like, teaching people who's boss, killing, and all of that. This is in that same light. Like, she's not disbanding whatsoever, just like you said, she's rebranding. So I am really, really looking forward to when Shang-Chi finds out about what she has done, because that is going to get wild.
I can probably see the 10 Rings returning a Disney Plus show, even one the next couple of years, like an episode or so, and like maybe in Moon Knight has to face off a couple of the the henchmen. But I was really surprised to actually see like the little announcer guy from the Fight Club by her side. So I'm glad that he's sticking by the side.
Gotta have your wing person, but yeah. So both of these
He's
credits,
a hype man. You gotta have your hype man.
Yeah, you got to. So both credit scenes, I think, were excellent. They definitely set up for the future. So first question before we get into ratings and where this puts into is, where do we see Shang-Chi next appear?
Post credit wise, or like in the actual movie
like
wise?
Where's the next time we see him in the MCU? Like, where is he making his next appearance outside of the obvious Shang-Chi 2?
How about Doctor Strange 2?
Yeah,
it's a good possibility, especially being with Wong last time we left him.
Who isn't in Doctor Strange 2 these days?
I need to
Uncle
look
Ben.
at Eternals.
No, that's Spider-Man.
You don't know that.
Internals.
You don't know that.
What are you saying,
Eternals.
Eternals. Okay. If my theory holds, that would
if the
make
rings
sense.
are tied in, and Eternals was supposed to drop before Shang-Chi, back when this was originally like a pre-COVID. I'm pretty sure at one point this was Eternals was supposed to come before.
I think you're right. That might have been the switch.
Yeah,
there was a switch that happened. I think you're right.
And they did the same. Like they used Val in the Winter Soldier before Black Widow. So but
Val was supposed to be introduced in Black Widow first.
So they've been known to punt and switch around. So they could very well, maybe we might not see Shang-Chi, but maybe the rings at the very least.
Yeah, the original Eternals release date, and this hurts, was November 2020. The original Shang-Chi release date was February 2021.
Yeah.
All right. So from each one of you, what is one thing you want to see in Shang-Chi 2?
I want to see the clash between him and his sister. I will say I didn't answer the last question of where do we think he will be. I'm gonna say end credit scene of Eternals.
Oh, wow.
But if not that, I think it's gonna be next year. And it's either going to be Multiverse of Madness or maybe another credit scene in Captain Marvel 2. The Marvel.
How many choices does Clay
Marvels.
get?
No, I'm just saying like the Eternals is like probably a dead set for because of the possible connection that we're all reaching for in this end credit scene. I think there is going to be something that is going to bring him in connection to those characters for sure. But as far as what I want to see in Shang-Chi 2 or whatever they want to call it at that point, I want to see the clash between him and his sister.
Okay.
Clay, I'm on Clay's boat there. I want to see that go down, and I want to see him apologize and her say, "I don't care, you left me," and just have a complete showdown. And I know Shang-Chi will not be able to kill her, so we're going to get some great heart in that fight.
I think I want to see him team up with either Ant-Man, because both take place in San Francisco, or Spider-Man.
Brent?
Ooh, yeah.
I would love to see him teach Spider-Man Kung Fu like he did in the comics a few years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with the clash with Xialing, finding out like what he's going to do when he finds out about the 10 rings. I would also like to really see the classic heroes fight before they team up trope with him versus a super soldier. So while my number one choice would have been Steve Rogers, I will now say with Bucky, like just to see, because there's some of the best fighters.
Not Home Depot?
No, not Walmart Cap, not anything, just... But I mean, the super soldiers are some of the best fighters around, right? Mm-hmm. I would like to see him face off with them.
I could totally see, I think it will be a joke fest, but I think it would be awesome joke fest with him fighting Ant-Man. Like, I genuinely think that would be hilarious.
I feel like that fight would be super short because they would just get along. They would just
They-
get along with each other.
I genuinely think that they would too, but just like how the fight between Ant-Man and Falcon, like that was a little bit of a joke fest
Tic-tac.
too.
Mhm.
But I honestly think that like there would be something hilarious to the point of like Shang-Chi like fighting in all of the great ways that he is, and freaking Ant-Man would just be like, I was not prepared to fight kung fu, like just something along those lines. I think it would be really great.
That'd be fun. That would be interesting. I'm gonna go with it. The idea that the area that they went to, the aunt lived in, what was it?
Hello.
Talo. I want to explore a little bit more since they made reference to we're protecting your universe. We are not in our universe when we were there. And they made that very clear in their little brief history at that point.
Yeah, they called it another dimension.
Another dimension. So I want the exploration of, I want to see Kung Lao and I want to see Iron Fist introduced into Shang-Chi 2.
It'd be
Chris,
fun to see them team up versus the Hand.
Mm-hmm.
if like his sister is running the 10 Rings now and she's been there to tell Lao, who's to say that that's not part of what she wants to do, come back to there in the potential series. So I would, like you said, I would love to get an exploration of that, just the creatures alone. Give me an episode. I felt when we first showed up and saw the creatures, I felt like I was playing Pokemon Snap in 64 back like 20 years ago. It's like, take pictures of these. Oh wait, no, this is just normal.
All right, so each one of you will rank it in the sense of out of 10. Where does this score for you at that point, and then where in your MCU rankings does this fit? So, Brent, I'm going to put you on the board first.
I'll go 9 out of 10. I'm not going to call it a perfect movie, but my complaints are just so minuscule. As for where I slotted it in my rankings, it's number 7 for me, which is where I put it initially, and then I wanted to revisit it again, especially a couple weeks later, and make sure it was holding up for me. It does. So number 7 for me, which, I mean, getting above that, that's my top tier stuff.
What's right below, what's right above it?
So number 6 is the first Guardians of the Galaxy, and number 8 now would be Captain America: The First Avenger.
Okay, Travis.
Ooh, I didn't give, which is shocking for Superhero Discussions hosts. I didn't have a out of 10 put down, but
Slacker.
I'm going to give it an 8.75. Just doing the numbers off in my head there. I thought this film was fantastic. They're very minor nitpicks. I would have liked to see a little bit more with the Death Dealer character, but I think with the time it was good the way they did it. I just thought you could have had another a little bit more of a personal struggle for Shang-Chi there. But besides that, I thought it was fantastic. All the elements were there for a great story, and like I said, they did stuff that the trailer misled me, which I enjoy that. And where it ranks for me, it may go up a bit more. It's number 10. It cracked the top 10 for me. Number 9 is Civil War, and it bumped the Incredible Hulk out of my top 10. So yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed with this. I can't wait to watch it again. And like Tony said, I think Tony said, yeah, I wish this was on Premier Access. I really did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, Tony, you're up on the board.
At 9.5 out of 10. And this one, I figure, you know what? I'm actually going to do a letter board. So I did, took me a while too. Ranked it spot number 5. It's right underneath WandaVision and number 4, and number 6 is Civil War.
Okay. Clay.
I am going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. This movie was absolutely amazing. Again, just like Brent said, I did have a few nitpicks, but they are so minuscule compared to the actual movie, the plot, and everything else. As far as my rankings, I do have it right here as number one on my letterbox.
There we go.
It has beaten all of what I had in my top five, which were Winter Soldier, First Avenger, Iron Man, Black Panther, and Endgame. Now Shang-Chi is right there in the front. So
Look at that. 4 Phase 4 properties in your top 10.
yeah.
That's impressive. I am a slacker for being a co-host of this show. I have not done a letterbox. I have yet to rank them necessarily in an order. I will work on that, but I will give this a 9. All similar reasons at that point. I think it's not perfect. I think that's the problem sometimes with origin movies. I like seeing where they can go in the second one to see what the growth is from your standard kind of origin story. And that's not knocking it, calling it a standard origin story. There's just, the hero's journey we go on for each one of these films. Right now, I've only seen it once, so I'm place holding it right now at number 10. I need to see it again to see if it's going to either stay 10 or fall below or crack into beyond 10. So right now it is a top 10 film. It is sitting at 10 for me right now. But all right. So gentlemen, this was a lot of fun. And I think if this were to be our last Marvel movie, I agree that this was a great way to end it at that point, but stay tuned. We'll have that discussion very shortly. So, all right, Mr. Hines, tell us how they can follow you.
You can follow me on Twitter at Travis_156. You can drop me a line. We can chat about pretty much anything. Host 2 shows on the network. DC Alliance, I co-host with Clay down there. We talk about anything and anything DC, my universe comics. Take a check out for that if you're still here. We love to talk DC and superhero discussions as well. I do for the network, both weekly shows, and I recorded 2 episodes this week because I promised Son of Batman review, and then Mortal Kombat Legends drop, and we get a Godzilla style fight at the end of that, kind of similar to here, a giant dragon, another monster. There are similar beats. Not nowhere near done as good, but yeah, check those 2 out and see me weekly on both those shows.
Clay.
Of course, you can always find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter. If you go into my bio, you can find the link tree to all the links to the shows that I host, that including DC Alliance, Batman News Weekly, Comic Book Legion Podcast, Weird Science Marvel Podcast, Weird Science DC Podcast, Weird Science Manga Podcast, as well as Ranger Alliance. And Chris let it out of the bag.
I didn't say anything. All I said was that you're currently working on Star Wars Alliance.
I am currently working on Star Wars Alliance. Actually, as far as what is coming up there, Katie did post about it today, so we're going to go ahead and shout it out here. We are going to be talking about the most recent audio drama from Star Wars: The High Republic, that being Tempest Runner. I have listened to it a total of 3 times. It is so good. So wow. Go listen to that and then listen to our review coming up within the next few weeks.
Chris,
awesome.
You get a pass on that because I've been saying for the last 3 superhero discussions episodes that you're co-host of Star Wars Alliance. So
I mean, as of right now, no, because they already have 2 co-hosts. I will say one is currently out of commission because a brand new baby, completely understandable. But we will see what happens.
You never know.
Sorry, listeners, for the misinformation on superheroes.
And Tony.
Find me at Twitter at Walker93 or Instagram at comic_discuss. Talk about awesome. Disney comics, Star Wars, Marvel, and wrestling if you want.
All right, buddy. Brent, we've gotten 2 movies. We're starting to get our hang of our mojo when we're doing these reviews. So as always, I appreciate you, and tell everyone you can follow you and plug your shows.
Brentak Prime on Twitter, and the other podcast I have, not part of this network, is Fans Without Borders. No episode this week. Next week will be our Shang-Chi review over there.
I'm pretty sure he's going to see it at least one more time before.
I don't know.
Before that one.
Timing may not work out this week.
Gotcha. All right. And yes, you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow this show on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. And you can email the show at Marvel Alliance Podcast at gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, fact or fictions, questions, your Shang-Chi theories, where we're going with this. Continue to rate and review the solo feed and GUA network feed on Apple Podcasts, wherever podcast your choice may be. Thank you all for listening. Thank you those who are joining us in the chat. Hope you enjoyed Shang-Chi, and stay safe out there. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. We talked about 2 end credits. Let's do our own end credits, gentlemen. Box office. We've only know what they did Thursday night at time of recording, which was $8.8 million for Thursday night. You know,
we have a little bit more than that. Not a lot. Let me pull it back up. Deadline did a Friday midday.
Okay, so where are we at Friday midday?
Let's see.
This reminds me of Entourage when they're tracking Aquaman.
So it looks like they're basically Friday midday is when it says it was updated. A $25 million Friday, projecting a $60 million 3-day weekend. Of course, ultimately, the number you're really going to hear is the 4-day number because of the holiday.
Yeah, so that's domestic right now at that point. So we know this is not going to be the box office, as we always been saying with these films pre-pandemic. So based on the box office that's going to happen with 4 days, I think the more telling sign is going to be, and Clay, I think you said the legs of this movie going into weekend number 2. Does the performance of this, do we get Eternals and Spider-Man No Way Home this year, or will they be delayed?
I think we get Eternals. I think Spider-Man is still way too far to really play what that might be. I genuinely think that with Shang-Chi's projections right now, it's not a lot, but it still crushes, like people have been saying, records for Labor Day within itself.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think that is very telling. And, you know, people love numbers. And I think Disney will appreciate those numbers as well. And so I think, if anything, we will get Eternals with day and date with Premiere Access.
Wow. Okay. So we'll do Premiere Access with it. Okay. All right.
I'm kind of with Clay on this one too. I don't think you can. First of all, for anybody that doesn't know, the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer had like 40 million more views than the Avengers Endgame trailer.
All right.
So
move on.
But that was a gigantic hit, and Sony doesn't exactly have like a Hawkeye that they can pick up and dust off and throw out as a show that is a hit and everybody loves. So this is like the most surefire thing Sony has right now. Let's be honest here. I don't think Uncharted is anywhere near that. So I think that they would be smart to release this. It all depends on the vaccination numbers and the infection numbers for United States. That's where it goes for Spider-Man. I think Eternals can be released. I think Clay's idea of Premiere Access, but with all the issues with Scarlett Johansson, you'd have to make sure you have a lot of the Eternal cast taken care of. You don't need any more PR. Like this is not WB. This is Marvel, so we don't need any more of the PR with Scarlett Johansson. So that's what worries me about the PA for the Eternals. They figured it out to make sure that if they do go PA, we don't get the same crap storm from the actors in this movie. So I think that's a major important detail. Eternals is really close to being released.
The bigger difference between that of a Shang-Chi and that of Eternals, as much as I hate to say it, the lead for Shang-Chi, not as well known as that of Angelina Jolie or...
she's not actually the lead for Eternals, apparently.
Gemma Chan is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But regardless, she's in it. Kamala Jolly's in it. Bigger names. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your point is still
bigger
valid.
names, which will lead Disney to be like, hey, we can't just screw over somebody like an Angelina Jolie. So
some think so.
Of course, I would have
Some
thought
like
that they couldn't
Scarlett
do that.
Johansson.
Yeah, I would have thought they couldn't do the Scarlett Johansson either.
true.
Here's the thing. Let's say it is the last new Marvel movie for the year. We still had WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, presumably Hawkeye. You know, there's those rumors of ties to Spider-Man, but I think that Hawkeye date's going to hold. And Black Widow, Shang-Chi. It's a hell of a year. So even if that is where it falls, but you know, if they really do come in close to $60 million for that 3-day weekend, no, that's not pre-pandemic numbers, but that is still a Labor Day weekend, like Clay mentioned earlier, a Labor Day record. I mean, it's not bad at all. Now, in my opinion, what it says is we should also be doing Premier Access, because you look at how much Black Widow did. Black Widow did $60 million worldwide Premier Access opening weekend. For whatever reason, without getting all into it, because frankly, I don't even know. They don't have China right now to help bolster the box office at the global amount. Disney Plus gives you a lot more. I mean, Black Widow showed it gives you a lot more revenue. So if they can get those contracts worked out, so they're not screwing over people like Scarlett Johansson got screwed over, like Emma Stone may or may not have. You know, clearly not as bad since she's already working with them again. If they can do all that, then I think Eternal still comes out. Spider-Man, honestly, and I know people don't like it when I talk about this, but I don't care. I think it comes down to the pandemic. We got the booster shots happening right now. That's going to make a difference. You know, Pfizer just got FDA approved recently. I have had people tell me that they are now getting it because of the FDA approval.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so Moderna's probably going to get that soon. Johnson & Johnson, like they're all going to get it. So, you know, Spider-Man has a chance. It also has time. They don't have to decide anything yet. They can wait and see how Venom does. You know, Venom, they can wait for Venom. They could maybe wait for Eternals. That might be deciding a little late, but they definitely can, at a minimum, wait for Venom. And
What's
Venom
that
is in
Venom date?
October 15th.
15th, yep.
And it's actually it's the next Marvel movie. It's the next movie with a Marvel logo. Let me phrase it that way.
Fandom.
In 41 days. In 41 days, if you're counting that sort of thing, is when Venom comes out. And you know, that's a good time slot. It did really well last October, the first one came out. I think there's reason to hope that one way or the other we will get to see these movies. At the same time, I've already told myself mentally, like, don't be surprised, be prepared. Disappointed, sure, but like I'm prepared for the announcement that those are getting pushed.
Tony, what's your theory? What are you seeing in the looking glass?
Can see Eternal staying and having a Premier Access, especially like not many people really know Eternals that well now. So I feel like why risk going to the theaters? You can just stay home and watch it. But as Brett was saying, I second that, saying depending on how Venom says if Sony wants to move it, because as Travis was saying before, how Sony doesn't have that many big hitters like Spider-Man had, especially with the whole trailer wise, that, you know what, if they move it, that's risky, because like, what else can they bring in the money?
I say yes. I say Eternals will stay. I think the weekend box office will be very good, especially if they keep on getting the record-breaking numbers, things like that. That'll get the second weekend numbers to drop, but not as bad as we saw with Black Widow. But we know the reasons why for Black Widow, the second weekend drop at that point. A lot of different reasons with that. So Eternals will hold. I wanted Premier Access. I do not see it Premier Access. I think that they will hold to say, see, we were able to pull the numbers. We were able to have record-breaking stuff. Okay, yes, the Eternals don't show, but what did we do with a character that we did not know about at that point and still pulled into that? You're right. I think if the vaccinations, if the numbers go up in the sense of COVID cases, yes, that could change. I could move to Premier Access, but right now I don't see Premier Access, even though selfishly, yes, I want it. I think Disney is going to hold firm on not doing it, particularly since that we've already seen a number of delays to next year from Paramount. They have their own streaming. They're not putting it on there. They're holding it for 45 days. I think the day right now, I think the experiment of day and date premiere access is done for right now, but it does not mean it is dead.
Thanks, Scarlett.
So that's
I don't think the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit is really the thing that would stop them from going premiere access. It really is going to boil down to what way do they think they can make the most money.
Yeah.
They're not taking it that personally. I mean, the
No,
lawsuit, it's business. They all get, everybody there gets that.
And I more say it's the torrents that's going to hold them back, the torrenting of the movie at that point. And I think that's going to be a big problem because it was the most torrented movie going on, Black Widow.
Mhm.
And they lost a lot from that. So
Same
I
thing
think that's
with the Suicide Squad for HBO Max. You look and that drops any day and date release. It's all over the internet within 5 minutes. So.
But all right, we will see. There's been stories published earlier today that said that within 2 to 3 weeks they will make a decision on Eternals and their date. So we will be watching and tune into Marvel Alliance if and when that news breaks. So thank you all and have a pleasant tomorrow.